Hello, everyone. Hello, Facebook. I am Heidi Ferguson, and next to me in royal blue is Fidessa Ramsey, and this is Fierce Honest Hearts. And we are here today with a very special guest, a friend of mine, an entrepreneurial spirit and sister, Ramona Ndlovu. I'm sorry, Ramona Ndlovu. No, can you pronounce it for me?
Ndlovu.
Ndlovu. Sorry, I'm totally messing that up. Ramona is a marriage and family therapist. She's a therapeutic masseuse, somatic therapist. She does spiritual direction and many, many more things. I've personally known Ramona for about 5 or 6 years. We met at an entrepreneurial business group and stayed in that for about a year. And then after that was over, we stayed connected in another entrepreneurial group with 2 other women. More personally, I see Ramona as this goddess, really as a woman's woman who relates to people, but especially women, in a really very spiritual, honest way with a lot of integrity. And I also see her as a real nurturer. I feel that in my heart. So we'll do a check-in, and then we can start from there. I'm happy to start unless one of you two want to start. I'm happy to do my little check-in. So where am I today? For the last 5 or 6 days or so, I've been in this space of pretty deep grief and holding a lot of things. And I today shifted a little bit because there's more going on in my life than just grief. And appreciating the ability to balance it, to not feel like I have to hold it by myself, knowing that I have sisters to hold it with me, that I can share it if I want, that I will be heard in all of it and received in all of it. And so I'm really feeling the importance of that. And yeah, I want to say the importance of that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi.
Yeah, Ramona, I defer to you. I would love to just hear your voice in here, and whatever you would like to be seen in and whatever's alive for you. All is welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, what is alive for me? Well, I need to pare it down. There's a lot that's alive for me right now. I'll say I went to a conference this past weekend that was amazing. And one of the things that it did for me feels like it reconfirmed and reaffirmed a deep sense within myself of not being alone, of being supported, and not just with the people that I can see, but with, even going back to my ancestors and all of the people that have supported me, through my life and in ways that I didn't even realize. I sit with my ancestors regularly, and I love books, and sometimes they direct me to a book. So I really felt my grandmother directed me to this book, and I pulled it off my shelf and opened it up and she was the one who gave me the book. And I didn't even remember that at all. I don't remember ever opening this book. I thought it was a book someone had given my children, that after they, grew up and left the home, I'm clearing things. And I'm like, oh, let me hold on to this one. And so I open it up and it's from her. And I had been thinking a lot about her, really wondering a lot of questions, like, I wonder why we never talked about this or we never talked about that. And then I read this book and I'm like, she was trying to share with me even then in her master teacher way, not pushing on me, but more like through my route, which is books, let me just share this with you. And when the time's right, the seed will germinate and grow. So I'm really being with that support and knowing that it's present and continuous, and I appreciate it so much.
Oh my goodness, I'm touched by both your shares, just Heidi and being held by the sisterhood, and Ramona and this being held by your grandmother in a way that is really special and rich. So thank you. Dang, I'm like, we're off to the races here. How am I coming in? Ooh. I've been empowering myself. I guess that's the best way to put it, as a new entrepreneur, moving from, what feels like a stable every Friday kind of world of pay and work to one that has more risk management involved, but also has so much richness in terms of what I get to do. And as a transformational coach, like, every time I get to sit with my clients, I'm in awe of their progress. I'm in awe of maybe even how much I might have underestimated, like where they could get to and what they're flourishing in and what's kind of unfolding in their world. I always leave really lit up. That's one piece that is almost like ever present now, which is really yummy. And then this happened not so recently, it was like a week or two ago, but Ramona, when you were talking about being in community with people and that sense of belonging, I had gone to a beloved mentor's memorial, and he was a teacher of mine. His wife was a teacher of mine. They became like godparents. And to be in that community of just where I grew up, the people who grew me up, the peers that, all the memories that we have together, it was one of the best days I've had this year. And it's really standing out for me as a big guiding light of the amount of hugs I need, the amount of love I need, and I think most importantly, being seen, and being seen for my goodness. That feels really important to me right now. Yeah, and that's where I'll leave it.
Thank you, Faresta. I really love that. Yeah, being seen is really important for everybody. Yeah, right through to their hearts. Yeah. So, something I've been wondering about you for a while, Ramona, is you have many certificates and several degrees, and with all of that, I've been really curious to know what for you in all of your training and learning, what has had the most impact for you? Is that too big of a question?
Yes. Yes, that is too big of a question.
Okay.
I don't know that I don't think I could say one, Heidi.
Okay.
Woo.
Do you know, then let me ask a little bit different question. For your clients that you work with, because you work and you have your hands in many different kinds of things. For your clients, as far as them giving you feedback on a session or work you've done with them, what would you say has had maybe not the most impact, but a lot of impact?
Those are really great questions, both of them. And they're not easy to answer. I think the thread that I hear from my clients, probably two things. One is they've expressed how much it means to them to have someone who connects with them in a non-judgmental way. And that they have space to essentially attend to what they need to attend to. So it's a combination of having support, some guidance, but mostly that safe space to do the work that they need to do. Kind of like, I picture it like if you're out kind of doing something new and you can look over, and it's not that your coach or whoever, they're not necessarily going to do anything necessarily, but just knowing that they're there sort of gives you a confidence to like, okay, I can do this next thing. I can do this next thing, this next thing. So I would say that's one thing. And for me, growing in my ability to do that, because I'm someone who, I have a very expressive face. I don't hide my emotions well at all, pretty much. It's what you get. And so, it makes for, my clients often, it's good because even when it's challenging, there's an opportunity to have that connection where there's a sense of a thread between us. And if it's getting tugged or even if it breaks, being aware of that and being able to go through that repair together. And many of them haven't had the opportunity to repair when there's been rupture in their relationships, and aren't really sure how to do it, either because in the past others weren't willing, or they weren't willing, or they just didn't know how to do it, or whatever. So to have the experience of things not necessarily going perfectly, but that someone's willing to stay in it with them has been impactful.
Yeah, I
Thank you
really
for
hear
that.
that. Yeah,
Oh,
thank you for that.
can you hear me? Sorry, we talked at the same time. I wanted to make sure we can hear each other. Are we okay? You can hear? Okay. Go ahead.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I did, but I just want to make sure technology wise we were hearing each other too.
Yeah, I think we're good. Everyone can, yeah, I think we're good.
I guess my curiosity here, the essence I'm hearing is emotional safety in that place, like them getting to feel into what that is like, maybe have a new template. Yeah, I'm relating to that as a relationship coach. Like there's that element of you've got to see it done once and then you have a template.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or more than once, depending. Yeah. And also for the clients that come to sessions in person, it even starts with the orientation and acclimation to the space. And just, a lot of my clients aren't really used to taking up space, or there's something that's been going on that where they haven't attended to themselves oftentimes. And so to have the opportunity to really have space to notice, where do I want to be in the room, or to have the opportunity to be the one that has the view. Just things like that, to be asked. It can be as simple as that, just to be asked, what would you like? Where would you like to sit? How would you like to be? And then it can go from there.
Yeah. There's so much going on for me where I'm like, yeah, I'm really feeling all of that. And I'm attempting to put myself in the space of maybe one of your clients, and I'm asking myself, when was the last time I was asked where I want to sit or how I want to be, and then I can, if I wanted to, I could completely slide into that, worthy space. Am I worthy enough of all that? Yeah, and that's, I think, an ongoing piece of our work, right? So I'm also curious about, so let me just say this. From what I've known you, it seems like you hold your cards pretty close to your chest, which I completely respect. And recently, you have posted some pretty bold posts on Facebook or IG. I don't even know where I've seen them, but I've seen them, and I'm like, wow. And so I'm curious, and it seems as if that has come out of your work with Mangala. And so, and I also want to respect where you are with your life and what you want to share, how much you want to share. And so I'm just curious if you would, just so from the standpoint of sharing more about yourself in these posts, like where did that come from? Like, just, what I'm asking, I'm like, wow, that's really bold, and I'm curious about it, like genuinely curious to know, where did that even stem from?
Yeah. I appreciate you asking that question. I think it's a very funny question. I'm going to tell you why I think it's funny in a moment. But would you share one of the posts that stood out for you, just so I have a sense of what you were like, whoa?
I'd have to go on to IG to see.
Well, do you even, it doesn't have to be exact words, but what did you have to do with, if you remember?
Yeah, it had to do with talking about our private parts, our lady parts. And I'm like, wow, I just, in a million years, I would not have expected that from you.
Okay.
Right. And I mean, and I also really appreciate it, because I'm thinking to myself, we as humans, as women, we do need to talk about these things more. We need to get comfortable with the language, right? Because we like, even just now, I said lady parts. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, Heidi, come on. It's a vagina, it's a vulva, it's all the parts. And so, yeah, I think it's important that becomes the norm. It becomes the norm. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much for saying, sort of which ones you were thinking of.
Yeah.
So the reason why I think the question is funny is because I feel like someone who is very open and shares a lot of stuff. So it was funny to me that you said you feel like I hold things close to the vest. I will say that in becoming a marriage and family therapist, specifically, because you never know where social media is going, I try to be very intentional about what I put out in terms of generally being positive So if you, for example, go on my website, I think I've had colleagues say they're surprised at how much I share on my website. So there's that. And then recently, probably since 2020, I've barely shared anything because I felt so inundated with so much stuff that it was like, I couldn't even, like every time I even thought about posting something or sending a newsletter, it was just like, there's already so much out there. I don't even want to add to it. Like, I don't even want to. So that's why, at least in the last 2 years, especially, you really haven't heard anything from me up, down, or sideways. So my recent posts, I will say it's come with a combination of a lot of things. Definitely part of it is the work with Mangala. So Mangala Holland is she teaches a course called Embodied Female Pleasure certification course that I took, got certified with her last year in the fall. And that work is around pleasure for women. And I'll say the pleasure spectrum. So not just sexual, but pleasure in all areas of life, the whole person. And I had started that prior to my work with Mangala, which I think is why hearing about Mangala's work resonated with me so deeply. I was ready at that point because of the reading I had been doing and the learning I had been doing and all of the work that I have been doing. So, and I also, another big piece of it, which you may not know, is I also did a coaching program with Giselle Allen, who has the Revolutionary Rising for entrepreneurs of color, women and femmes of color. Yeah. And she's amazing. And so her coaching program is about doing things in the way that works for you and not necessarily following what, particularly a lot of times, the white Eurocentric way of doing things, but really finding what is authentic to you and based on your personal ethnicity, really bringing that in, your ancestry, your culture, your history, personally and bigger. And so I would say those two together have really brought a lot. And so in that, so doing all that work has gotten me also very much interested in my ancestry and seeking more information about that. And so then the third piece I would say is this increasing sense of a connection to my ancestors and my intuition. And I would not have said that I was an intuitive person. It was in grad school. One of my professors actually told me I was an intuitive person. I really felt like, coming from a very conservative Christian background, it was a gift of the spirit. And sometimes it was there and sometimes it wasn't. And I had nothing to do with it. And so through this professor, it was like, oh, well, you know, he was like, maybe it's both. Like, why does it have to be one or the other? And I was like, oh, that's a good point. And so gradually really like, well, there's a reason that since you were little, and when I say little, I mean like younger than 2, you have memories of experiences, dreams, and why people come to you and all of that. Like, it's not just, it's a gift, yes, but it's not something that comes and goes. It's part of who you are and how you were created. So bringing that third piece together, most recently, I just am like, okay, I really feel there's some things I need to do. And I need to somehow get it out. And I recognize that after all these years of taking in, I really need to put out. And so again, sitting with my ancestors, I got a challenge to do a post, it didn't have to be social media, but get something out on a daily basis. And I said, okay, I'll take that challenge. Once a week was what I said. Once a week, I'll do it. By the time my sitting with them was done, it was, I'll do it daily for 9 days. And I haven't stopped. And it's been more than a month now. And I don't know when I will stop, but there's something for me about the flow, because I'm taking so much in all the time, that I need to get something out. And the vulnerability part and sharing more personally, and the thing that you mentioned specifically as being like kind of out there, that speaking that bluntly or directly has never been an issue for me. My mother's a nurse, and so from young we've had very to a degree candid conversations, like you name the thing what it is, and you don't need to have make up names. So that was normal for me. I really didn't think that was unusual. So I know one of the posts that I put out was, have you seen your cervix? And yeah. And so for me, that was a very significant thing, because I was going through a thing at the time and I had never seen my cervix, and I had the opportunity to see my cervix, and spoke up and said to my provider, I want to see my cervix. And smart woman that she is, she was like, we can make that happen. And so that was really amazing to have that opportunity when I didn't, who knew when I would be able to do that again. And another part of that, I will say, is there was a possibility that I could be facing death. And I didn't have a fear of like, okay, this could take me out, but it was like, what if? And I was like, well, you know what they say, shit or get off the pot. I was like, okay, what is it that I really want to do? What am I here for? And I had been asking for that support. I have a path. I'm pretty sure I know what it is. I've been on it. And Giselle says, you're never off your path. You can't get off your path. That's impossible. So mine was like, okay, I want to, be consistent and keep moving. And so when that happened, I was like, all right, I'm going to stop playing small and stop being so quiet and keep pushing this out. And I think that's part of why I went past the 9 days. And yeah, I just am like, okay, really getting beyond. There are some people who are going to get this, some people who aren't, some people who are going to like it, some people who aren't. And that's not my business. So I need to speak up, because I do have a job to do here and I want to get it done.
Thank you. Yeah. There's a lot packed in that response. Not that I would expect anything less or different, but yeah, wow. But Astrid, did you have something you wanted to ask her or say or
Oh,
respond?
I have quite a few questions, but I
Okay.
just wanted to make sure we all got a moment. First off, just wanting to appreciate you for naming that place where we take in teachings as these forever students. And then there's a point where it's like, can you just drop all those frameworks and be the teachings for a little while? right? And just the impulse that you're having to do both feels really maybe what we're supposed to be doing. It just has me lit up over here, as someone who likes to keep like learning, and then it's like, wait a minute, at some point this has to be offered, gifted. Yeah, so thank you for that reminder. And I had a question. I'm curious, even just this moment in time for you, reading your bio, you had mentioned that having your daughters had you face to face with your healing in some way. I'm using my words. And I'm curious how that might be also part of what's lifted up where you are now.
Yeah, very, very insightful of you, Fareshta. Yeah, I think so. I just have one daughter, and I have a son. And I would definitely say that my relationship with my daughter, having my daughter, has pushed me, drawn me, probably more than almost anything else. And part of that is, I don't even know, like, energetically, physiologically, or whatever, how it happens. But in having my daughter, as my daughter reached the ages I was when I experienced trauma in my childhood, that's when my memories, so I always remembered that the trauma had happened, but I thought I was much older because of how clearly I remembered it. And so as my daughter reached certain ages and we would go back home to where I grew up, inevitably, every time we went, I would have an experience of a new memory or a new knowing coming, which really pushed me to, like, I really want to heal. And at the same time, it was really, really hard. And, sort of winding and wandering in the wilderness a bit. And so at this point, also, I would say my relationship with my daughter is pushing me because she's very outspoken, very bold. She's amazing. Heidi knows her. And yeah, she continually challenges me. So we had a conversation and I was like, I think I'm ready. I'm ready to hear from you. And she was like, you want to know the truth? Can you handle the truth? And I was like, oh, fuck. Hold on. Let me think about that. Good question. I'll get back to you. So yeah, I'm getting there, but I appreciated her not letting me be just impetuous, but really like, let's count up this cost and, not go, unawares. So, yep, huge challenge. I posted about that too.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
That was the one where I'm like this in the picture.
Oh, okay. Wow, what a great question that she asked you. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for the truth? So much we can learn from that, really. I mean, as I think about my own relationship, with my mother, which has been a struggle for me. It's just been challenging. Yeah, I would love to hear her say to me, I'm ready to hear the truth. I would love to hear, even if she's not actually ready to hear, I would love to just know that that's a possibility. That would be beautiful to me. And what a gift. Yeah. Hard as hell to hear and take in and all of it and to feel it. But to know that, you know, yeah, it's wow, that's really impactful. Um, yeah. Um, so I'm curious about um, a little bit more about your work with Mangala, or like your certification. Are you with your certification? Does this mean that you are teaching other women, or people who identify as women, what Mangala? I don't even know what her course is, so I'm just curious. You know,
You'd like to hear more about
I
what I
would.
learned?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
absolutely would. Yeah.
So the short answer to your question is yes, I do offer coaching now in that. And so Mangala has a variety of offerings.
Hmm.
All of her offerings focus on helping women to connect with, explore, experience their own pleasure. As I said, that spectrum of pleasure, not just sexual. And she speaks specifically about orgasms and increasing orgasms, increasing the power of the orgasm. A lot of her work, not exclusively, but she promotes it as, you know, have more O's, get more O's, enjoy your O's more, all of that. So that's sort of like the big headline. But what many of us women were never told and may never have experienced is the significance of that pleasure, the connection of the, even specifically the orgasm, to our brain development, to our connection to our voice, to our sense of empowerment, to our sense of being women and moving strongly, boldly, powerfully in the full expanse of that, the generosity, the gentleness, the softness, the strength, the power, the all of it. And so while she has that big headline, she's about the empowering that comes, that it's sort of like happens often in therapy, like where, you know, couples will come and they're like, we have communication problems. And it's like, everybody thinks that, and that's not actually oftentimes what the problem is. But it's kind of like an easy one to spot. And certainly most of us could improve our communication. But when they find out about kind of all that's underneath, they're not communicating, that is where the gold is and where the transformation can happen in their relationship. And so it's the same thing with the orgasm. As you practice the specific steps that she goes through, helping you to feel safe in your body, feel safe to explore, really sticking with moving at your own pace. What is your own pace? What's your yes? What's your no? All of that work, that is what changes how you see yourself, your relationship to other people, potentially. I mean, the potential is there. And that is actually, I don't want to speak for her, but I suspect it's actually not so much about the O's. It's sort of like the O's are what get people's attention, but it's about what happens when women have their O's, their orgasms, and the fact that women can have orgasm around and connected to without being touched. It's connected to our spirituality. It's connected to how our brains develop. I mean, it's amazing and exciting. Yeah, so she has 3-month programs, 6-month programs. The one I was in was a 9-month certification program, where she takes us through working with ourselves on the path that we would then teach others. So the first portion is we do the work, and then the next portion is how do you teach others and lead others through the work.
Oh my goodness. There's so much. I'm just like floored by the conversation, especially right now in our political times. The empowerment of women through their bodies and through their own trusting and their own knowing. And then I love the spectrum of pleasure as someone who could stare at the flowers and enjoy music and all these things, to include just like all the yummies in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this curiosity, I might pin it for now, around, how we've been discouraged from that place.
Mm-hmm.
And then hearing it tied so much to our empowered state
Mm-hmm.
has me thinking. But the other piece that I'm so floored by is that your schooling, much like mine, was you've got to go through the path of fire first, right? You've got to experience it, have the compassion for it, witness it, know it in yourself, and then you can walk someone else across the bridge you've walked. I just that modality of teaching feels like everything to me right now. So thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
And to be clear, you do this work with women as well, or people who identify as women. Okay, very cool, very cool. Heidi, did you have any other questions before I pop in another one?
Do I have another question? I think I just wanted to say something around, so the orgasm does have this ability to support us in feeling empowered. And I've been very fortunate. Like, I don't take it for granted. Like, I can orgasm pretty easily. Like, I'm all about it. I figured that out pretty early on, like, fortunately. And I've spoken to, so many women throughout my life who either don't know if they've had an orgasm, don't know if they're like, does it feel like this? And I can't really tell them, because an orgasm feels different to everybody, and everyone's experience and how they experience it is very different. And so, yeah, and anyway, getting back to the empowered piece, and just pleasure in general, and the scale of pleasure, I think is so important as humans, and especially as women, because we often, kind of downplay. We're like, oh, I don't need this, and I'm okay without it. Hell to the no. No, no, no. We are not okay without it. We need pleasure just as much as that person, we all need it. It is, like you said, it's part of our, in so many words, part of our vital force. It's how we live. It's how we survive and thrive in our lives. And so, just take something as simple as a really good meal that has all the really yummy flavors. Like, I could orgasm from a really good meal, because I really enjoy flavor. I understand flavor. I love flavor, and I like to experiment. And so that, like, when I eat something that is so, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I created this, or the other person, but it's so enjoyable. So there's, I wanted to mention, because there are many ways to enjoy pleasure. Yeah. I felt the need to say that. So.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
So true.
Amen. Yeah, so I had a question, and I don't know if these two actually go together or not, because I saw the marriage, therapy, like couples helping people in their partnerships. But I was also thinking about I think it was like traumatic touch therapy. Is that what it's called? So between the two, I'm curious, whichever one you feel called to speak about, how we support people who are like chronically stressed, who maybe like now their neurotransmitters are off and not replenished and they're drinking over it or doing over it. Which modality, or is it both for you? To some, like I'm talking about what I notice is chronic stress
Mm,
in a lot of people, like they're stuck in a gear
mm,
now in their interpersonal lives too, in their
mhm,
relational lives.
mhm.
Yeah. Does that make sense? I know it's a double question.
Um, you're asking like which modality or?
Well, whichever one you might want to talk about. The question of like how are you supporting people through what feels like maybe trauma, stress, what presents now as like anxiety or edginess in people.
That's another huge question. But I'll say, so whatever modality I'm using, however I'm interacting with people in a professional capacity, specifically, I try to be consistent throughout my life, but I think I'm stronger with my clients probably than my family. um, more consistent, is really having that understanding of the way that our nervous systems are wired and what is needed for a given person who's in that chronic stress response, where either their sympathetic nervous system is activated and engaged, and they're in fight or flight, like do something, but and then that's one thing. But then if they are also have their dorsal vagal engaged, which is the collapse, the freeze, the check out, like they've got both of those going, it's very much finding out what's going to support the particular client. And typically I'm looking for ways for them to connect to humans or pets or pleasure that is not harmful in the long run, inviting opportunities to slow down that are not so scary they won't. Really it's very typically slow, and a lot of awareness cultivating, really a lot of awareness cultivating, because if you're not aware of it, you can't change it. And aware beyond just, I know this is happening, like I'm gone. We want to back it up to, can you start to notice at what point it starts? Can we go all the way back there? Catch it early.
Yeah, I just love this place of like, I guess I feel hopefulness there of like it's reversible, right? And so many people have been going through so much. And I think interpersonally, people cramped up in houses for 2 years and all the things that come up. Just I've had this question of, okay, there's being able to talk about it, but there's something in your modality of like the gentler touch, I think,
Hmm.
in the
Yeah.
therapy, which I get very curious about.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I don't know if we have time to share. It's 5:38 for anyone who needs to know. Do you have like a moment just to touch on that particular modality? It sounds really intriguing.
So the somatic therapy, the trauma touch. So there's two modalities that I do for somatic therapy: transformative touch and trauma touch. They both have the same goal. They just go about getting there slightly different. And yeah, they're both all about essentially, where is the client, and how can we support them in essentially being safe enough to notice something, start to notice some things. So it can be done, either can be done with touch or without touch, online, in person, very flexible, and yeah, they're both very gentle, which is why I was drawn to them. Yeah, there was something else in your question that sparked something, but I don't know if I can catch it. Other than that you mentioned being cooped up, and I've been thinking about the stress that many people are under all the time, that's even beyond COVID, which was bad enough. But also just from our culture here in the US and the way people are viewed, and just the way that we're sort of queued up and keyed up to have this like push away from people instead of drawing in of people. And some of that is because it hasn't been safe. And some of that is because people have told us over and over and over it's not safe and it'll never be safe, and we've believed them when it was not necessarily always true. And so going to that, well, it'll never change, what's the point? And I mean, there's so much wrapped up in that. And I also think about that in terms of yeah, clients that I work with specifically, for example, that are African American and have multiple forces at work, one on top of the other, on top of the other, that's like, walking in a very intentional way about where is the safety, when is it safe, and not just carte blanche. Well, of course you can talk to so and so and tell them how you feel. Maybe not. We would hope so. We would wish so, but maybe not. That may not be the wisest choice.
Yeah. Feeling impacted by that awareness. Thank you. Yeah, Heidi, anything you want to
Yeah,
add? I don't want to end this conversation, but
I
I'm watching our
know.
time.
I know. However, we're going to pivot, and I'm going to ask our chat pack question for the week, which is, what is the clearest answer to meditation that you've ever received? Clearest answer to a meditation or prayer, however you view that you've ever received.
I need a clarification.
Okay.
As in, like, I went into meditation with a question, for example, or
Not necessarily.
clear.
So yes, you could, or
Uh-huh.
you could have just simply gotten a download.
Oh,
Yeah. Are you ready, Vanessa? I have a response, but I just wanted to see if one of you wanted to.
I have to, okay. I have to put a parameter on that, like in the last week. I mean,
Okay.
ever. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think I could hold the essence of it. I don't know if it was a message so much as like that place within me that trusts my inner knowing. Like getting to that box way, way deep in there and knowing it exists, and then learning how to operate from there more often. Yeah, just finding that little treasure chest and going, okay, everything out there doesn't have to necessarily be what goes in there. Yeah. So a short headline would be like, I found out where I can operate from. Best.
Oh. I honestly didn't realize it would be so challenging, but okay. Yeah.
I feel like I get pretty clear direction regularly, and it gets clearer and more regular the more I act on it. And so that's why I'm saying it's hard. There have been so many. I will say I'm going to take Foresta's, I like that vein. So instead of saying a specific one, because there are so many, I'll say, for me, one big thing has been the reminder to follow what I speak. Because it was, for example, I tell my clients all the time about the need that life experiences need to be digested, just like food. And we can get all kinds of problems when we don't recognize that and allow things to move through. And then, of course, then it's like, take your own advice, listen to, and how many months and years was I taking in all of that learning and teaching and not moving it through? So I'll say that's been a ramped up reminder that the things that I'm saying are the things that I also need to hear. And that's something that Ken Hardy says as well. Like, what is the thing, what does your mouth need to speak? Because essentially your heart needs to hear it.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So this is the message I've been carrying with me almost my entire life. I heard it, I'm going to say my earliest memory of hearing it, because I've heard it, in my life many, 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 many times, but probably at 4 or 5, which is no matter what, in every situation, regardless of the outcome, you're going to be okay. And there are times when that message literally brings me to my knees. And I'm humbled by it every time, because I'm like, am I really okay? I'm okay. And a lot of times I have to say, I have to ride that out because I don't know what it means in the moment. But what matters is that I believe, I wholeheartedly, in complete faith, believe that I'm going to be okay. End of story. Don't need to ask questions. Just know that whatever the outcome is what it's supposed to be. So there it is.
Gosh, thank you, ladies. This has been, I feel like there are part 2s in the wings, but this has been really yummy to learn and to I just soak up and bask in some of the wisdom here between us. Thank you.
Thank you, audience, for watching, for being with us. If you're going to watch later and you want to pop in a comment or a hello or a like, please do. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe. It just helps us with our audience. I don't know. I just know that if you hit subscribe, it helps us somehow. I don't understand all this stuff.
It helps people find you.
What's that? That's how people find us?
Yeah, it helps.
Okay, so that's how people find us. So the more people that hit subscribe, the merrier, and more people will find us. Ramona, thank you so much. It is such a pleasure and honor to have you with us today and to allow us to a little bit more into your life. Yeah, it's really been wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks for the invitation. It's been a pleasure to be with you and to talk with both of you. Thank you.
Such a joy. Thank you.